Welcome to Data to Decisions. One of the common tasks when it comes to data preparation or data cleanup for our reporting and analysis is where you have missing values. One common scenario is what I have on screen here. We have the customer ID, and it is coming from a data set or a source where we are missing the values in between. So, where we have to populate, for example, customer ID 1 should be applied to both these records as I show here. How do we fill in these missing values from the value above? In other words, filling it down. Or in this example here, customer ID and the type of customer. In this case, we have the value populated in the last row for each of the entities, and we have to fill the missing values by looking below or filling it up. So fill down, fill up, very, very common when it comes to data preparation in organizations. And I'm going to use some simple Excel formulas using which you can do fill down or fill up very, very easily. Let's get started. Now let's start with the fill down scenario. So where we have this data and we have to start filling it down. So the first thing I would do is we're going to use the if function, right? If it is blank, then fill it down. But if it is already there, don't change anything. That's the basic concept, right? So let's do that first. If this C7 equals blank, then we want to do our thing. Otherwise, just give me back the same. Okay. So now let's fill out that. What do we want to do? How do we do this fill down? So I'm going to use the function called offset and say if I need to fill it down, so what I want to do is to look at the previous value. Okay, so because I'm right now writing this formula in cell G7, I'm going to use G7, comma. What do I? How far should I go back, or in this case, go up? So I will do -1 because I'm going up is minus, and then if you go down, it's plus. So -1. How many columns should I be offsetting? No, don't do any offsets in columns. So you can just ignore it and put a comma. And then how high is this going to be? There's going to be only one value that we want. So I'm going to do 1, close parenthesis, and this is it. So let's try this and see what happens. And I'm going to bring this down. So this is 1, and we can clearly see the missing 2's are entered, and we also see missing 5 is entered. So it works fine. So let me just again go through this logic. What we're doing is offsetting G7. G7 is where we are, right? So in G7, it looks up the previous value if C7 is blank, but C7, the first value in this scenario, the first value should not be blank at all, which is, I think it's reasonable to expect when you're doing a fill down scenario, the first value is entered. And so what happens here is whenever it finds the value is not blank, and it retains the same thing. Then it goes to the second row and say, now it's blank. What do I do? And in this case, the formula will say, yeah, you're in G8, go up one row. And what is going up one row is G7. So it already has a value. So I'll just use the previous value. So it uses 1. And then it goes to the third row and say, now what do I do? Yeah, I don't want to do any offsetting because I already have the value 2. So just put 2. Then you go to the next row. And now it says, I'm finding a blank. What do I do? Go to the previous row, which is G9, put that down. So basically, this is how the fill down is working. And if you want to bring the sales, again, in this case, I'm just going to show it right next. So now what we can do is we can do total sales by customer, all those type of logic or all those type of calculations. Further aggregations can be done easily because you don't have missing values. If, for example, if you didn't have these missing values populated, it'll be difficult for you to summarize the sales by customer, identifying customers who have done more than $10,000 in sales. So all those type of downstream calculations will not be possible if we don't have this missing values populated. That's where it becomes extremely important. Now let's look at the fill up scenario, which is very, very similar. So what we're going to do is if the value, in this case, we're going to fill the type column, text column. So if the text column type is blank, Then go to the below row, right? So I'm going to do offset. Again, we'll do the same cell. M7 is where we are. So wherever you are, and go to the one row below, and you don't need to go any number of columns because we're going to be in the same column. What is the height of what I want? I want only one cell back. I'm just going to do one and close. And if I don't see a blank, then I just want you to give me the same text value. Again, we'll go through this again. Customer ID, do this. You saw that it actually applied. So it's very important here that we start from the bottom. The way Excel is going to populate it is if the last value is present, it should be present in this scenario. Then it puts existing, and then it goes to the next one and says, now what do I do if there's a blank? Our offset function says, look below one row, it finds existing, so it populates the same. Then it goes to the next one. And now we already have a value. So it populates the same, populates the same, populates the same. Now it gets a blank again. Now what do I do? Whenever you see a blank, look in the same column below. So column M below, it finds existing. So it keeps populating it until it finds an actual value in the column K, then it uses it. So very similar logic. It's just the direction of the offset is different. Then I think we can further use this data, in terms of summarizing or aggregating. If you have another efficient method, more efficient method to do so, please post them in the comments and I look forward to learning from you. And if you have other topics to suggest to cover in this channel, please again go to comments and put in your suggestions. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you soon in another video.